We have a National Health Act, don't we?
Yes, we have a National Health Act.
How can we work with that act, within that act, to ensure that we, going forward from now, improve our nutritional base?
Well, everything has to do with funding. And the National Health Act that was signed in 2014 by former President Jonathan, there it stipulates that at least 1% of the consolidated revenue fund must be allocated to health. That did not happen this year, this 2015-2016 budget. And also there's a declaration that was made about 15 years ago. In fact, funny enough, they call it the Abuja Declaration. It was in Abuja, where it stipulates that at least 15% of the national budget must go to health. Other smaller African countries, they are already achieving that. We haven't done up to maximum 5%. And even the 5% was just on paper. Maybe they did only about 3%. That was the former administration.
That's in terms of implementation.
Okay, so I told the minister this last time budget that we reviewed, I said, look, now we have maybe about 4.3% or so of the national budget. 2017 must not be like this. This nutrition issue, if you want to attack it, we need to actually let us get close to that 15%. That is even called Abuja Declaration. I traveled to Kenya, they were making fun of us that it's called Abuja Declaration, but Abuja, we are not the ones that are leading in terms of implementation. Other smaller countries are near 15%.
I'm a little worried when you say that, yes, maybe perhaps the federal government can fund, especially in states where, the funding will be a challenge. But not all states will have that challenge in terms of funding. And ideally, states should be able to also look in the area of their primary health care centers. There are states that, from the state that you represent, that are doing pretty okay with their primary health care centers. Should we also exclude such states that have the capacity?
No, of course. I mean, states that can afford, of course, they are supposed to make it a priority. And of course, yes, my state is making it a priority, and one or two other states. Okay, but it's a matter of, we have to be realistic. Because if we are saying we just want to put it on paper that the states should do this, we have to first of all confirm, can they do it or not? Otherwise, it will be an exercise in futility, and wait for another 1 year again to do another budget.
But how would we know if we don't even open it up? If we don't open up and say, for the states that are interested, because we know that for the federal government's feed-in program, for instance, they are saying that the states that are willing to sign up, in fact, Kaduna State, I believe, started their own program even before the federal government did. For the states that are able to come and sign up, if we're not going to include the states, how would they, be a part of the entire scheme?
I think we should just focus on the National Health Insurance Scheme. Every Nigerian can afford to put in something towards the national health insurance. We have the population on our side. Okay, if we have enough contribution from all Nigerians, even if it's 50 naira, you can imagine what that will translate to every month. And that is even more than the budget of health put together in the last 2 years. So we should try to enforce that national health insurance, make it mandatory. And then all over the country, primary health care will be free. And not free, but at least national health insurance will take care of all the funding. So I believe that is where we should go.
Senator, what other local, besides the funding and the budget, which ties to funding, what other local, homegrown solutions would you be looking at to solve this?
Well, the major problem is what they call the severe acute malnutrition. This year, they recorded maybe about 2.5 million acutely malnourished children. To treat these children, we need this RUTF, which is readily prepared therapeutic food. And that product is 100% imported. The contents, we have groundnut, which is about 25% of that product. They say we cannot use our groundnut in Nigeria because of the toxins. So we need the Ministry of Agriculture to train our farmers for them to be able to grow at least the groundnut that's acceptable for this product. So this is the...
Which is another entire conversation by itself, because, I mean, first of all, we've been told that the beans, I recall, was it the European Union, that stopped the importation of, is it the export of Nigerian beans into the EU because of toxin levels? And you've also confirmed that as well. Now we're talking about our granules not being fit for, this particular sort of mix. And one will wonder how fit it is for even natural consumption, considering just how, much of a staple that also is in many parts of the country. People just eat granules. We farm granules, we roast them, we boil them, we do all sorts of things with them. Are we also concerned about, even the foods that we consume, how safe are they for consumption? Because that can create another category of health issues altogether.
Yes. I was involved with the ban of the beans by European Union. They gave us 1 year to get our acts together before they can consider lifting the suspension of the export of the beans to Europe. I told them that, look, what is bothering me is not really the export at this stage. If it will take us to get our beans to Europe before we now know it is not good for human consumption, then we have a big problem. Let us see how we can even make it safe for our Nigerians here. So we now invited the Ministry of Agriculture, the quarantine department, and it was a joint committee of the health and agriculture. And we realized that, we are not doing so much on research. We need to allocate even funds for research, for people to go out there, also for inspection, and all our NAFDAC, quarantine departments and so on. We have to fund them to be able to go out there to actually test all these things that is going on in the farms and also in the storages and so on. So there's a lot of work to be done to... So
that was the outcome of the Senate joint session that you had. But what work, from what you know, what work do you think has been done in that regard?
Well, first of all, they were focusing, the committee at that time, they were focusing on how they will lift the ban for export. They wanted, the European Union gave us indications of what they needed for them to lift the ban. That is, our inspection agents must be effective. But of course, we had challenges at the ports. We had so many agencies at the ports that were asked to leave at that time, and it is a lot of bureaucracy to get them back there. So we could not achieve that immediately. So in fact, they have now extended the ban for 3 years. So now,
from 1 year?
From 1 year is now 3 years. So for the life of this government, we can't export any beans to Europe, which is a real sad case. But
your own concern was, ensuring that the beans is at least fit for consumption locally.
Yes.
The question is, what work do you know is going on in that regard to ensure that, what Nigerians even considering that we're beginning to hear a lot more of, cancer cases now. Cancer seems to be on the rise. What work do you know is going on amongst these agencies to ensure that, what we actually eat, for those people who can actually afford to buy the food, is fit for consumption?
Well, I mean, in the budget that was passed, there was the creation of funding for mobile laboratories, so that at least in every ward we could have health workers and also inspection agents that can go and take random sampling of beans coming out from the farms. For example.
This is under what ministry?
NAFDAC.
This is under an agency?
Under NAFDAC now, because I'm in health, so I mean, also I'm sure the quarantine department of the Ministry of Agriculture too, they will be doing something about that. So that was what was resolved. That let us get nearer the farmers and let us see how they are doing their storage. Let us educate them on the kind of pesticides to use, because it's a matter of knowledge again. They need to know the pesticides that are good for the human consumption. I mean, the ones that will serve the purpose that we need. So a lot of education, a lot of training of the farmers is what we have advocated, and we've told our colleagues in the Ministry of Agriculture.
What about reaching out to the tertiary institutions? I mean, they have research departments and all of that. How are you reaching out to them to find solutions?
Well, there are many letters coming from them in terms of not having funds to do minor things in their department. So that's another area we need to really address in terms of making sure they're properly funded to do what they have to do.
All right. Thank you very much. We'll be speaking to the chairman of the Senate Committee on Health, Senator Olaiwaju Tejuosho. Thank you for speaking with us.
Thank you.